So, welcome everyone to our bite size on grounding. So, we're from the Recovery Education Centre. My name is Jay, and I'm one of the practitioners that works alongside other pracs and other peers, like the lovely Will, delivering and developing stuff like this.
Hello,
Hello,
my name
Will.
is hello, my name is Will. So I am a senior care specialist. I use my lived experience of mental health to kind of inform services today. As part of that, I deliver webinars and I create and help deliver bite-sized courses as well.
Right. So, I guess a good way to start is to think about what actually is grounding. Because I think just the word sometimes can feel a little bit like, what am I supposed to do? Like, is there something that everyone else knows about that I don't? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think there's a stigma around the word grounding as well. I feel like it's seen as it needs to be some sort of meditation guided by, holy people or it has a very, at least for me, it has a very high bar for entry, I guess. Whereas for
Yeah,
me, or at least it did until I started making this course, at which point I kind of had the realization that grounding can be whatever I want it to be. Doesn't have to be kind of some guided, like I said, some sort of guided meditation. It
sure.
can genuinely just be sitting down and kind of bringing yourself back into the moment. So for me, that could be playing video games. It could be listening to music. It could be genuinely anything. It doesn't have to be um, mindfulness, I guess is what I'd say.
Yeah. So yeah, we've been looking into it, haven't we? And I guess I've been thinking about it and kind of trying to practice stuff. So it'll be like, might be out in my garden, say, and then I see like a little butterfly. And maybe normally I'd be too busy thinking about what else I was doing or needed to do, or I need to go and make the lunch, or I need to go back and get on my laptop. And I was just thinking about trying to just have a look at that butterfly and actually just experience the moment and where I am for that second. So it doesn't have to be something, I guess, that, yeah, someone is telling you to do. It's you can find it yourself. And it's kind of whatever keeps you in the moment. So it's like it says here, it's about grounding, is just reorientating ourselves, bringing me back to now. Okay, so let's think about some of the stuff we've learned.
So, as I mentioned, I had a bit of perception about grounding before kind of helping create this kind of bite size. And I guess we thought it'd be kind of good to have a bit of a introduction to what you've learned about grounding. So
Mm,
I guess you can do it anywhere, anytime. It doesn't have to be, as you said, it doesn't have to be in a specific location. For me, it's just small things that keep me in the moment, small things that stop me worrying about the future, stop me worrying about stresses, just things that keep me thinking about now. So yeah, you can do it anytime, anywhere. Yeah, there's no harm in trying it. So that's kind of obvious, but it's not a negative thing. There's no way for it to go wrong, right? It's just kind of bringing yourself back into yourself, just kind of thinking about now, thinking about what's going on at the moment rather than worrying about the future. It can anchor and calm you. So I find a lot of things I used to ground myself are real anchors for me as well. That
mm,
kind of bring me back to the moment, which is really ideal. Okay. There's lots of different ways to do it. So it's very flexible, very individual. I think when I
mm,
Googled kind of grounding techniques, it did frustrate me a bit because they were all very kind of um, traditional. They're all very kind
mm.
of, they're built for a specific person. Whereas I feel like grounding is so individual that it's just whatever works for yourself. It isn't just meditation. Yeah, it isn't meditation. It isn't just sitting around in a field, humming. It can be whatever works for you. Listen to loud music, right? That's something that probably wouldn't be seen as grounding, but for me, that is grounding.
Oh, that is massive for me. And I was also thinking, as you were saying that, around I'm not very good at sitting still. So the actual sitting still part I find difficult. But I think, wandering, walking forward, looking, listening, that's what I was saying about the butterflies or the sound of the sea. But also like dancing in my kitchen is one of my favorite things to do. And it can bring me right back into my body. Anyone can join me. But it's that sense of like my music, my choice, and kind of just yeah, bringing me right into the now. So I think they can all play a role, can't they? It doesn't have to be anything particular. And I really like the no one has to know. So if you're maybe thinking around, and we'll go through a couple of skills or like a couple of tools in a minute. The no one has to know thing is like you can just do this in your head. If I'm kind of realizing, say, that my breathing's really like all over the place, then I can just look at a window, look at something that's square. I can count myself in with some really deep breaths. No one needs to know that. Like no one knows what's going on except me, which I really like too. So types of grounding. Again, I think myself and you, Will, we got sort of deep into this for a period of time, didn't we? And then decided that maybe it doesn't really matter, but that it's good to know what types there are. And you can look in more detail at any of the ones that interest you. And also, I think that sometimes we're doing a lot of these things anyway. So it's just actually going, do you know what? I'm quite good at grounding myself already. Um, you don't have to categorize it into physical or mental, but it can help us understand the concept of it. And again, there's just some examples we've got that we picked up along the way, which we've already started to think about. So, listening to music, touch that I have agency over, so that I choose, breathing, as I've mentioned. So, I used to think, oh, come on, breathing's not going to help to calm me down or bring me into the present. It's just something that my nervous system does. But actually, what I realize is if I'm not calm and I'm not feeling grounded, my breathing is all over the place. So it can really help to bring my attention to it, just even for a minute or so. Um, that I can kind of that can really kind of affect that what I'm taking in and what I'm bringing out, and that can really help calm me down. Visualization is something that's really good for some people. So that might be thinking about somewhere safe. That might be a photograph that comes to mind. Um, People talk a lot about walking in nature, walking outside, thinking about the sea, all of those things. But like you were saying, Will, like they can be totally different. We've got to really think about individual differences within that, right?
It's individual, right? Because I think sensory for me, walking at the beach and that is stressful. I mean, the sand and
Yeah.
all that, sensory wise, that really throws me off. So for me, that wouldn't work. But for you, that works great. And it is just that agency over, isn't it? It's just being able to know what you like, what you enjoy, and what works for you, and just doing that, I guess.
Yeah. So people talk about like gaming, don't they? Like pets, uh, all sorts of different things that again makes us kind of who we are, I suppose. And it's about keeping your identity within this and not trying something that, like you say, keeping to try something that actually isn't going to work for you. I love that. I love the fact that you say, well, that just stresses me out. Yeah, it's like taking my little boy on the beach. All he thinks about and gets upset about is the feel of the sand. So that's not for him. Um, so it's so individual, which I really like.
So I guess we kind of wanted to add a bit of an example of regarding exercise. So it's kind of a bit of a stereotypical one, but I find it really does help me. It's one of the ones that you can do without it being very obvious. You can do it anyway. You can do it in the middle of London. You could do it kind of in the office. I think it's a very low key one. It is quite stereotypical and it's one you might have seen before, but it is helpful. It's 5 things you see, 4 things you feel, 3 things you hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. Maybe you can think of that you can taste. So that makes sense. So not necessarily having to be in a kitchen, but things that you could imagine
Hmm.
tasting, I guess. Again, it just helps kind of reorientate yourself to your senses and to kind of bring you back into the moment. I find it really helpful when I'm really stressed in the office. I find it really does kind of bring me back into myself and stop me from worrying about what's going on outside of my little sphere, I guess.
Hmm.
Yeah, I do really like it, although it is kind of a stereotypical one. It's definitely it exists for a reason.
It does, and there is something about the simplicity of it. And you're right, it's all about the senses. So there's something about using our senses that's kind of proven that brings us back into the to it. It helps us, I guess, to look outward. So sometimes I get really carried away with how anxious I feel and all of the stuff that's going on inside my body. But actually, if it's suddenly it's like, hold on, what can I see? What can I feel? What can I hear? It just takes me out of there for a second. So that orientation is what I like about it. But yeah, like you say, you might be carrying around some nice mints that you like the taste of, something like that that kind of grounds you. There's all sorts of things to try. So thank you, Will. So just to finish, really, just a little bit of a chance to reflect then. So one of the most important things we can do is just have a think of, how did that make me feel? Was I able to come back to the moment? Did I notice any changes in how I felt? So it's always worth a minute to reflect. It also gives yourself permission to have some thinking space. And if you have noticed any changes, you're more likely to give it another go. So, did my heart rate come down? Did my, tingles, my fingers go away? Did I feel less anxious? Was I able to just, be in that moment? Because that's the reflection bit, is what makes us think, do you know what? I'll give that another go. So, lastly, thank you everyone, and thanks to Will for joining me. And yeah, I hope it is helpful. Thank you.